So, which action cam provides the best low light performance? And if I show you footage from a range of cameras, will you be able to pick out which footage goes with which camera? You're about to find out. With action cameras recording such amazing footage these days, I think one area of differentiation is how they perform with low light footage. I was inspired to create this video because I was testing out the new Insta360 Go Ultra, and I was in a low light situation at Disneyland on a ride, just testing it out. And I was a little disappointed in the footage, and then it made me think that, well, maybe I wanted to test the low light capabilities of a range of cameras just to see how they compare. So this video is the result of that test. So I gathered all the cameras I had, as well as begged, borrowed others. And so I have a wide range of cameras here. I'll be showing you footage. What I did was one evening about 10 o'clock at night, I just took each camera and pretty much filmed the same handheld scene at night on the street. And there's two different sides. One's a little lighter, one's a little darker. And it resulted in the footage. So the low light contenders in alphabetical order are the Canon G7X Mark II. Now this is an older camera. I think it's about 8 years old. I guess you would call it more of a point and shoot camera as opposed to a mirrorless camera, but it does have a 1-inch sensor. Interestingly, the camera has a setting for low light nighttime shots, but it's only for still images and not for video. DJI Osmo Pocket 3. This is an amazing camera. It's got a 1-inch sensor, and it's just got that signature gimbal. So it's kind of a combination between a higher end mirrorless camera and an action cam, although you can't take it underwater and the gimbal is rather sensitive. It's a 360 Go Ultra. Of course, this is Insta360's latest action camera. In many ways, you use it pretty much like an action camera. Of course, this is Insta360's innovation with its 8s Pro line, as well as with the Ultra. But of course, this camera has the versatility because you can remove the actual camera. It goes on a pendant, or it can go on a hat. You can put this camera in places that you can't put other cameras. And it's got a smaller sensor. And this is what started it all when I was filming on a ride at Disneyland. So let's see how this compares. Insta360 Ace Pro. Of course, Insta360 has a newer version of this camera, the 2, which is supposed to do even better in low light. Again, it's an action camera in a GoPro style, has the flip-up screen, and it served me well. Insta360 X5. This is our sole 360 camera in the mix in this experiment. Of course, the 360 camera takes footage all the way around, so you shoot first, you edit later, and you take a portion of the footage, and then that becomes your flat video. So we'll see how this one compares. And finally, the Sony ZV-E10 Mark II. Now this is a definite jump in terms of quality, or it should be. So this is an APS-C, essentially a mirrorless camera. Now, I equipped it with a 16mm 1.4 lens, so it's a really fast lens, and maybe that wasn't a very fair comparison. I should have put a slower lens on it. But anyway, with its fixed fast lens, we'll see how it turns out in the mix. I have a feeling you already know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you footage, and then I won't tell you which camera did which footage. I rank them from what I thought was least quality to the best quality, and then you're free to try and guess and see if you can figure out which camera goes with which footage. And of course, I will reveal the answer later, as well as I've taken still frames, screen grabs from the different footage, and so I tried to use that as a direct comparison, and I will do commentary on that as well. Anyway, here are the rankings showing you the camera with which night footage in order as I called it. As I mentioned earlier, I took screen grabs from the footage so I can compare specific areas that were in the videos. So anyway, here's my assessment. So here we have our 4 images. Up here we have the Insta360 Go Ultra. In the upper right, the X5 Insta360. Down in the lower left, Insta360 Ace Pro, and in the lower right, the Canon G7X Mark II, in the order that I think they should go. Now, obviously, the lenses are different. The Canon here isn't as wide of a lens, so we're going to just kind of zoom in a little bit. I realize that we're getting down into pixel levels and things like that, but I think it'll help us to look at and compare the detail. And one thing I do need to point out here is the fact that the Canon G7X here, well, a car just happened to drive through as I was filming the video. So did that give an unfair advantage to the Canon or not? I am not sure. But anyway, that's just something I'm pointing out here. Now, I think initial impressions, first of all, it's pretty easy to see that the Go Ultra in its pure video mode, that's the night mode, is darker than the others. And so, yeah, the chip can probably process and make it lighter, but this is what you get here. The X5 is really quite bright, but we'll examine some things a little closer. I notice here that there's this kind of artifact coming from the light, so I'm not sure exactly what that indicates. And then down here in the lower left, I have the Ace Pro, which I think the image is getting a little stronger, as I'll show you. And then, of course, the Canon G7X here in the lower right has its 1-inch sensor. So I think that it's recording the best information in the image. So let's just zoom into where I think things become quite apparent. I'm just zooming into the trees here, as you can see. And I do think that when you look at the Ace, the Ultra up here, it's just a rather muddy mess. Here, the X5, I believe, has done some processing, which is why you see all this, the ringing around the lights and even just kind of blurring here. Now, the Ace Pro does offer a little more detail. You can start to see somewhat leaves and such. And then here, I think is the, with the Canon, is the best impression of the leaves that are on the tree. Again, there's that car there, so there's that. So what I've done is I've brought in the 2 highest ones from the last round. So I have the Insta360 Ace Pro in the upper left, the Canon G7X Mark II in the upper right, and here I've brought in the Pocket 3, and over in the lower right, the Sony ZV-E10 Mark II with a 16mm 1.4 lens, which hardly seems fair, does it? Let's do what we did. First of all, you can see that the Pocket and the Sony here are the lightest image. The G7X I find quite pleasing, but let's zoom into our foliage and see what we see here. So I think that's a pretty good comparison there. And even with the car speeding by, that may have given an advantage. You can see there's detail from the Pocket 3. And of course, as I was expecting, my APS-C on the Sony ZV-E10 is giving the most detail. Now I've got the end of the clip with screenshots. And so let's see if we can adjust these so they're a little more alike. You notice that the X5 just has a really wide range here. So I really can't quite adjust this image to where I want it. But anyway, it'll give you a side-by-side comparison here. Again, they're in the same order as before. You can see that the Go Ultra is quite a bit darker. The X5 has a brighter image. Hard to see. There's this car over here, so that's probably a pretty good indicator. See some detail. And compared to the X5 here, we get that blurring here, whereas the car, I think, has quite a bit more detail. You can see part of a license plate here. That's the chip and the dedicated sensor for just one shot compared to using the sensor for the X5. And over here we have our Canon, and we do have the detail. We do have all the grain. Again, the Canon does suffer here when shooting video. It is an older camera and it doesn't have a dedicated chip to process video, so I'm sure that's part of the deal, but it does capture more data in the car. Overall, just certainly for social media use, any of these three images are certainly, or the video I should say, is certainly usable. So we'll go with that, and then we'll use the top four. Now I have my four images, screen grabs from the videos, and I took it towards the end of the video. That's definitely darker than the first part. So up here we have the Ace Pro, the Canon's G7X Mark II, the Pocket 3 down here, and the Sony ZV-E10 Mark II. So with a lens, 16mm 1.4, and I think it's easy to see that there's these images on the bottom. The best two are lighter and brighter. But let's zoom in here and compare some of the details. I think already you can see between the Canon G7X, again, this doesn't have a dedicated processor for the video, as does I believe the Pocket does, and certainly the Ace Pro does as well. But here you can see more detail in the car. You can see the license plate brighter. You can see two headlights. Gosh, I hope I can't read that license plate. That'd be kind of amazing. I'll have to blur that out, which is kind of crazy. You can see certainly more detail in the foliage here, whereas up here it tends to just kind of blur out. And so that's a much more pleasing image. And now let's zoom in with the APS-C, and I think it's pretty clear that the APS-C version here is quite a bit clearer and offers more detail. You can see here in the hubcaps, as well as maybe even here in the grille and headlights. Gosh, I hope I can't see that license plate. I didn't want to put that all over the internet. I may have to blur that out. So anyway, if you see this license plate blurred, you'll know why. Anyway, let's pan back out here and get a comparable scene. But as expected, I guess the big surprise for me is I wasn't expecting the Pocket 3 to exceed the Canon G7X in terms of its image quality or video quality, but of course the processing extra chip that it has is going to, or because it's a newer camera with the 1-inch sensor, it's going to just be designed for video work, so it's going to look better. And of course the APS-C, the Sony ZV-E10 is a relatively new camera, and it's got all the night processing and low light capabilities, so it's going to offer the best image. Did I get it right? Or was I wrong? Or was there something flawed in this experiment? Would you please let me know in the comments, or if you even disagree with my assessment of which footage was the greatest. Now, it would have been interesting to include a phone in the mix here, but the reason why I didn't is because among all my cameras, my phone is kind of the least camera that I own, because I don't keep up with the latest 16 Pro, 17 Pro, or whatever the latest iPhone is. So that's the reason why you don't see any phones included, because I'm at least 3 years behind the cutting edge phone. And of course, if I had access to a full frame camera, I'm sure it would have blown everything else away, but I don't. So anyway, this experiment stands, I guess I stand behind it. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. Anyway, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.